Walaikum Assalam.
Sir,
Good
we are
evening,
waiting
sir.
for you.
Good evening,
So, should
sir.
we start?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Please mute yourself, my friends.
Good
My
evening to
friends, all
everyone.
of you, please mute yourself. Okay. So, my friends, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Arshad Husain, Associate Professor in the Civil Engineering section of University Polytechnic of Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. In fact, Arshad Bhai is a very learned person. If you see, uh, he has 50 research papers published, and 32 of his papers have been published in conference proceedings. He has 246 citations. He has attended 82 conferences and workshops, and he has organized 27 refresher courses, mainly on the disaster management, which is conducted by our UGC HRDC, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. So basically, BSc Engineering, MSc Engineering in Civil Engineering, and PhD in Environmental Engineering from Aligarh Muslim University. It is his academic qualification, and he has a teaching experience of 26 years. So besides having a sizable experience of teaching and research, in fact, he contributes in university administration as well, and presently he is the coordinator of National Service Scheme. So a very busy person, but the moment I contacted to him, so far as the topic of sustainable development and living is concerned, he immediately gave his consent. So his complete CV is available on the web page of the Civil Engineering Department of University Polytechnic. If you want to know something more about him, you can know. In a nutshell, I will say Arshad Bhai is a very good teacher, a very good researcher, and he has a lot of contribution in outreach programs, and overall a very good human being. And I think he is the most suitable person to talk on the topic sustainable development and living. So with this short introduction, I'm handing over the session to Arshad Bhai. Sir, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to interact with the participants of this course. Secondly, thank again for giving such a nice introduction. And I always feel good when I am given an opportunity like this to interact with a vibrant group of participants like this one. Uh, just now, I'm coming from my department. There was a mid-semester exam, and due to which I was late for about 10 minutes. So just now, I have reached my home and joined you online. So, are you able to see the PPT?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, okay, okay. So, as
Yes, sir.
Good evening,
okay,
sir.
please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Good evening to all. The topic that I will be discussing about is sustainable development in living. So, first of all, we'll try to understand the meaning of these terms being sustainable and what sustainability is all about.
Okay, sir.
So,
Okay.
yes, so if we go by the United Nations Environment Program, they have defined sustainable development as the development in any part of the world or in any country where we can bring about the change in the, let's say, commercial sector or growth in the industrial sector or the construction of infrastructure, but at the same time try to sustain the ecological components of the ecosystem of our planet Earth. Because when we talk about achieving development, all round development, it is something that every country and every citizen of any country is interested about. All of us want to grow, all of us want to have our gross domestic product in our country, GDP growth and per capita income growth takes place. But the cost environment is giving in the last several decades has also played a havoc with our say existence and our survival and our health. So we have to consider that what is the cost of this development that we are thinking about and what we want to happen in our country. So this is the vision of more sustainable world by the year 2060. which has been the core subject of discussion in the Copenhagen summit that has taken place a few years ago. And India being a signatory to this Copenhagen summit, we have agreed to bring about the changes that are required to achieve sustainability, be it reducing the carbon or the ecological footprints of the human activities, or bring about the change in our lifestyles that are essential for achieving this. So, if we define sustainability, you can see in the lower part of the slide, it's the capacity of the Earth's natural systems and human cultural systems to survive, to flourish, and to adapt into a very long term future. So, the three basic principles of sustainability is we have to think about the more and more use of the solar energy, which is considered to be the main source of all energy on earth. Then how to conserve biodiversity and the nutrient cycling or the biogeochemical cycles that exist on the earth and which are essential for our growth and development. So these concepts being in our mind, how can we conserve the natural resources? How can we conserve the natural capital? How can we bring about more and more nutrient recycling due to the all round pollution in all the ecosystem components like air, water, soil? The climate change is taking place all around us. How we can stop or rather reduce the changes taking place to the climate, and how we can treat the waste that is being created around us by the human activities. It may be wastewater, domestic wastewater, or municipal wastewater, or industrial wastewater. It may be the pollution that we are causing in the air or the air pollution. And how can we bring about conserving the biodiversity? That means all the species that are endangered are in the danger of being extinct. How we can conserve them? Then pest and disease control is another subject that the scientists are pondering upon, research going on in this field, that various types of chemical pesticides that we have been using for the last several decades, for example, in agricultural fields, to kill the weeds, we use weedicides. To kill fungus, we use fungicides. And to kill rodents, we use rodenticides. So there is a general term pesticides. Some examples: DDT, that is diphenyl trichloroethane, dieldrin, andrin, chlordane, myrex, toxaphene. There are many examples. So World Health Organization or WHO has identified 12 or 1 dozen such compounds which are categorized in the category of persistent organic pollutants and which are present all around us in all ecosystem components, in the air, in water, in soil, and all the agricultural products that we consume uh, in our life, that is food grains, vegetables and pulses. They all have these micropollutants or emerging pollutants, as we call them. They are present even in water bodies, in air. These emerging pollutants are there, so pesticides being one of them. Then what do we understand by this term environment? So environment is, जिसको हिंदी में हम बोलते हैं पर्यावरण या माहौलियात। तो हमारे चारों तरफ जो भी एग्जिस्ट कर रहा है, हमारी तरफ जो हवा है, पानी है, जो जमीन है, ये सब हमारा एनवायरनमेंट है। और एनवायरमेंटल स्टडीज में, एनवायरमेंटल साइंस में हम क्या पढ़ते हैं? एनवायरमेंटल साइंस एक इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी साइंस है, and it connects the information ideas from the various natural sciences like the ecology, biology, geology, chemistry, etc. So we have to consider all these different aspects, and being into the considering it, you have to have the knowledge of all these subjects. For example, here in this slide, you can see that to understand environmental studies or environmental science or engineering, you should have a knowledge of the diversified subjects, starting from science to geography to economics to political science, philosophy, and religion. So somebody's mic is open. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. So what do we learn in the environmental science? We learn various aspects of how the pollution in the environment affects us, how we can control this pollution, what are the natural systems in the ecosystem which say purifies these systems. For example, natural air purification, natural water purification, and natural soil purification. Then how to deal with these environmental problems, how we can reduce the pollution, and how we can learn to live more sustainably. So nature's survival strategies follow the three basic principles of sustainability, what I've been talking about. That is more and more use of solar energy, because this solar energy provides warmth and heat on the earth's surface and brings about the photosynthesis, that is the basis of all agricultural growth and production on the earth. Then conserving biodiversity, because if one species become extinct, all the other species are in the endangered category. So chemical cycling includes all the biogeochemical cycles, that nutrients required for the growth of plants and as well as human beings, like nitrogen cycle, like water cycle, like sulfur cycle, and all these other cycles, they are important for life to sustain on earth. Now in this slide you can see that how the human evolution has taken place. The theory of evolution given by Charles Darwin and other theories that we study in science and in theology in different religions differ. And it has been said by the Charles Darwin theory of evolution that the human evolution from a simple cells that appeared about 3.5 billion years ago up to the Homo sapiens that appeared on the surface of the earth about 200,000 years ago. There were many species of flora and fauna, including the dinosaurs and the mammoths and other species which are not present anymore. They have already become extinct. And there are some other animal species which are in the danger of becoming extinct. So, as the students of science and as the global citizens, it is our responsibility to protect all the species, because once any species endangered, there is a risk or you can say a hindrance caused in the food chain or the food web, and it affects the balance on the ecosystem of earth. So we focus on these three principles of sustainability, and some key components are to be considered. One is called the natural capital, which includes the natural resources and the natural services, and the human activities that we call as the anthropogenic activities. They are mainly responsible for degradation of the natural capital, and we need to find out scientific solutions, create awareness amongst the general masses, especially for a developing country like ours, where more than 70% of the population lives in the rural areas. So they are not even aware of the importance of environmental sustainability and how it can be brought about. So the importance of the educated community, to train them, to help them understand the importance and play their part and their role in conserving the environment. So when we say that natural capital, it includes the air and water, then non-renewable minerals, including iron, natural gas, that is oil, soil in which we grow all the agricultural products, and the land area again in which the nutrient recycling takes place. So these are all natural resources. And natural services include how we can bring about population control, that is having a burden on the natural resources. Secondly, how can we bring about pest control without indiscriminate use of the chemical pesticides, which has played havoc with our environment. Again, nutrient cycling is important. It transports or transfers from one species to another species. the dead organic matter decomposes to inorganic matter in the soil, then it again recycles to form organic matter in the plants and organic matter in the animals. The animals consume this grass and the vegetable products. So this cycle continuously goes on in nature. So nitrogen cycle and phosphorus cycle and carbon cycle, very, very important for the human beings and other species. Natural capital degradation includes uh, various activities. One example is shown here, that is deforestation. So according to WHO requirement, the forest cover in any country should be at least 33%. It should not be less than that. If it is less than 33%, it is going to have a negative effect on the environment of the area. So we are forced to cut down the trees, either due to construct the houses for human beings, or the wood in the trees being used for various industries like paper industry, or some costlier varieties of wood like sandalwood being smuggled and sold in the international market by the poachers to get good money. So in all the cases, it is the human greed which is responsible for destroying our forests. And the forests are called to be the lungs of the environment. All of us are aware of it. And during the process of photosynthesis, the forests release a large amount of oxygen in the air, which are not only counterbalance the pollution, but also provides oxygen for the living beings to survive and to respire. So that is a very important thing for us to conserve. So if we are forced to cut down trees due to these several reasons I've just mentioned, there can be a situation where we can replant these trees. We can do the plantation of the trees on a large scale. And the important thing is that we should follow up. For example, everybody says that one should plant at least one sapling or two sapling during their lifetime. But what happens is that we plant it, but we forget it about a few days or months. So every person who has planted a sapling should follow up and take care of that plant until then it grows into a tree. And then we can say that we have contributed our part for reforestation, and in this way helping the environment to flourish and to restore to its pristine quality. Various causes of environmental problems that cause pollution. Population growth is one effect, and now you know that India has now become the most populous country in the world. We have surpassed China officially. uh, Using unsustainable resources like this big car, which is having different materials being used in the manufacturing of this car. It is Hummer, and various sorts of metals, plastics, glass, and other, say, materials being used in the manufacturing process. So when you produce all these materials in the metallurgical industry or refine them, every time we are contributing to some amount of pollution being caused to the environment, in water, in air. So in this way we can say that every human activity has got an ecological or carbon footprint. So if we are using these types of gadgets or cars, automobiles, and other devices which will cause burden on the environment, ultimately it is the human beings, the us, we have to face the situation and pay the price. Again, poverty is a big problem in the third world countries, the underdeveloped countries, especially the countries of Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And then trying to achieve large agricultural production at the cost of, say, depletion of the soil fertility, or increase in the concentration of deadly chemical fertilizers and pesticides in the soil, which become a part of the food chain, ultimately causing various types of diseases and problems for the human beings. So, if we want, what is the path to sustainability that we are talking about? conserving the natural capital, reduction in the natural capital degradation, finding solutions which can be brought about by the knowledge of sound science, engineering, and technology, and the role of every individual as a global citizen is very, very important. We can start from our own self and can bring about a change in our own household, in our society, in our locality, in our city, and then in our country. So ultimately, each individual has a role to play in this conservation process or the path to sustainability. So Earth's resources are all what we obtain from the nature to fulfill our requirement needs. Some resources are available directly for our use, like sunlight. Some are not directly available, like petroleum. We use petroleum and do its refining in the oil refinery to obtain various byproducts like petrol, diesel, LPG gas, paraffin wax, naphtha, bitumen, etc. for different uses. Then solar energy, again considered to be a perpetual resource, and we divide all the resources into renewable and non-renewable. Renewable resources are those which are abundantly available in nature, like forests, grasslands, fresh air, and fertile soil. But what happens if we continuously cut down the forests and the grasslands for various human activities? We pollute fresh air and fertile soil, so they may not be no longer remain renewable. And the various sources of renewable energy, because the conventional method of energy production is use of thermal power plants where we burn fossil fuels like coal, then produce the heat from this burning of coal and convert water into steam and then it into electrical energy. So every unit of electrical energy produced by the conventional method, you are adding something, say carbon emissions to the environment. That is why this energy is called the non-renewable source of energy, because the reserves of coal and oil are limited and it will bound to be finished one day. So we can rely on the renewable sources of energy, which not only are abundantly available in nature, but at the same time, uh, producing energy by these methods is not harmful for the environment. So in this way, we can say that we can reduce or remove the ecological footprint when we produce renewable energy. So some examples of non-renewable energy: the energy produced from oil, coal, natural gas, and nuclear energy also. Until now, people were thinking about the nuclear energy to be a renewable source of energy, because the different type of nuclear material like uh, plutonium, uranium, thorium, etc. They are found to below the surface of the earth. They where from where they can be taken out and purified in an oil, in a say atomic power station. Near Aligarh, we have an atomic power station at Narora. So the resources that we are using, the radioactive material that we are using for generation of this nuclear energy is limited below the surface of the. That is why it is put in the category of non-renewable. Moreover, there are certain dangers associated with the use of nuclear energy. So you know that these radioactive materials, when they are used for generation of electricity, what we do, we opt for two processes. One is fission and other is fusion. And during these two processes, a large amount of heat is produced, which can be tapped into electrical energy. But these materials are highly radioactive, they produces radioactivity, and this radioactivity enters into all ecosystem components that are near to this atomic power station. So the dangers associated with that, somehow by accident or by sabotage or during a war, this nuclear power radiation leaks, and it spreads in the environment. So the effects are disastrous. People have not forgotten the effect of the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan by the USA during the Second World War. What was the result? Millions of peoples died, and the children are still being born with the congenital abnormalities even today. Similarly, in Chernobyl in USSR, erstwhile USSR, that accident took place and the radioactivity leaked. And many of you are aware of the fact that radioactivity is something that does not require a medium like air or water to propagate. Just like a gas requires certain medium to propagate, radioactivity can propagate even in a vacuum. And once a person is exposed to radioactivity, even in small quantities, the genetic mutations start taking place in the human body. And what is the result? Different types of cancers, sarcomas and carcinomas being reported, genetic mutations, children being born with congenital abnormalities, and all sort of problems that continue for hundreds and thousands of years. And there is no direct way of controlling it. So the dangers associated with the production of nuclear energy exceed as compared to the positive effects and the benefits from it. That is why it has forced the scientists or the scientific community in the world to think twice, thrice, and many times. And many countries have stopped the construction of new nuclear power plants. As you've just seen, a war between Russia and Ukraine is going on for the last 2 years. And there are many nuclear power plants which are existing in both the countries. So nobody knows, no news is coming out. A ban has been put on the use of internet and social media and the print and electronic media. So people are not aware that what is happening to these nuclear power plants, or has any leakage taken place by the bombardment, continuous bombardment of missiles and bombs that is being done by the Russia on the Ukrainian soil. So these are various things that it will look into when we talk about the achieving sustainability. So here in this slide, try to bifurcate and divide and try to understand that we can divide the resources into two categories: perpetual, for example, direct solar energy or wind, tidal and flowing water. Then non-renewable energy, what we got from fossil fuels, the metallic minerals and non-metallic minerals. The renewable energy is what we can have from the sources that are abundantly available in nature: fresh air, fresh water, and fertile soil, and biodiversity in terms of flora and fauna. So all these are the natural resources that are have been provided by the nature for the human beings and other species to depend for their growth and survival, for their health and well-being. It is us, the human beings, especially playing havoc with these natural resources, and uh, pollution of all kind is taking place, which is creating all round problems for us. So okay, problems are there, but we have to find solutions to these problems. So when we talk about sustainability, we talk about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So reusing means using any article or product which has been used for any purpose, and the industry buys that product back from the consumer, and again use it for any purpose. For example, in this slide you can see the glass bottles. So the companies that are putting their end products, their juices, maybe liquor or beer or whiskey or any other product in the glass bottles, they purchase it back from the end consumer, clean it, wash it, disinfect it, and label it again, and can be reused again for marketing. So in this way, you have say uh, protected the environment by say protecting or consuming less, production of less amount of glass for this purpose. And when we produce less glass, the energy that was required for production of this amount of glass is reduced in the system, and its carbon footprint can be reduced. So that is one aspect. Another aspect is recycling. So here you can see the plastic products being recycled. So when we say the plastic products being recycled, it is important that recycling has to be done judiciously. That means the judicious recycling. You know that different plastics are nothing but polymers, and these polymers are of different categories like polyvinyl chloride, PVC, or polyethylene terephthalate, PET, the jars that we procure from the market to consume to store food items. The bottles that you purchase from the market that is having packaged drinking water like under different trade names like Bisleri and Kinlane, Aquafina. So the jars and containers that are used for storing food stuffs, food items, or for storing water, they cannot be made from the recycled plastics. Only virgin plastics can be used for using the plastics for storing the foodstuffs and the water. Why? Because when we recycle plastics, there is a possibility that use of certain chemicals which may subsequently leach out and contaminate water and food that is being stored. So we have to, you must have heard about the food grade plastics. So that we have to take it into account. Recycled plastics can be used for other purposes. And we consider different countries that differ in different levels of unsustainability. That what activities the people are doing in these countries that bring about unsustainability. So we have to consider the economic growth in the countries and how it is measured. For example, GDP growth that is being considered by the financial experts as a measure of a parameter for the, you can say, the economic growth of any country. So GDP is the annual market value of all goods and services produced by all businesses, foreign and domestic, operating within a country. And the per capita GDP means that one measure of economic development per person in the country. And every country wants to achieve this growth. But at what cost? And I'm referring to the cost to the environment. So the economic development is important. It not only increases the per capita GDP, it raises the living standards of people. So there are more developed countries in the world, like the countries of North America, that is USA, then in Australia and New Zealand and Japan and most of the countries of Europe. Then there are less developed countries, like the countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So we can divide the different countries. Here you can see in the world map that countries can be divided by the gross national income per capita. So we have tried to show that how the income or the per capita GDP is in different countries. Now this global outlook slide helps you to explain that the global trends are quite alarming, I would say, or surprising, because the developing countries are having about 82% of the world's population, and the developed countries only 18%. On the other hand, the developed countries having 85% of the total wealth and income of the world, whereas developing countries only have only 15%. As far as the resource use is concerned, developed countries are using almost 90% of the world resources as compared to 10% for the developing countries. And pollution and waste, about three-fourths of the world's pollution waste caused by the developed countries, and only one-fourth, 25% by the developing. What is the meaning of this bar graph? The meaning is that on one hand, developed countries have more wealth, have more use to resources, but having less population, but they are polluting much more as compared to the developing countries. So the bone of contention in the different conventions and treaties and you can say, conferences that were organized in different parts of the world. Uh, if you think about one big such conference that was organized in the year 1990, which is called the Earth Summit, and it was held in the Brazil's capital, Rio de Janeiro. So there, up to the Copenhagen Summit, the developing countries were of the view that the what the developed countries are demanding from us, the developing ones, is uh, very much, you can say, unfair. Why it is unfair? Because you are polluting more, you are having more access to wealth, and you want all the countries, whether developed or developing, to cut down their carbon emissions equally. So the say, or the say the proposal of the developing countries was that, okay, we are ready to be a signatory to this treaty, but first of all, the developed countries should be able to financially help the developing countries in achieving this target, and all the you can say, the international monetary organizations like the World Bank and the IMF are in the control of the Western countries, the G20 countries. So uh, they have to financially help the poor countries to achieve this. Secondly, the developed countries have to transfer their latest technology free of cost to the developing nations so that they can use this technology to achieve this pollution controlling task, which is difficult to achieve. Not impossible, but difficult. Then the targets that will be met for 10-year target or 20-year target, or by the year 2050 or 60, the more the countries which are polluting more should take care of cutting down their carbon emissions at the same rate, as compared to countries like India, who are polluting much less, and their targets will also be smaller as compared to the developed countries. So the developed countries realized that the pollution being a global problem, that this sustainability target cannot be achieved unless we are going to cooperate with the developing nations. So they agreed, and now all the countries are working unitedly to achieve this target of say, reducing the pollution and achieving the sustainability. So how our ecological footprints affecting the earth? Whatever human activities we are doing, it is depleting and degrading the earth's natural capital that we have discussed earlier. We are living unsustainably. We are wasting, we are depleting and degrading the earth's natural capital. And with passage of time, it is happening at an accelerating rate, more rate as compared to what it was happening before. So this is called natural capital degradation. Air pollution condition is worsening in countries like India. People are talking about more and more air pollution in the NCR region, National Capital Region. Previously, more than say 6 cities out of the 10 top polluting cities in the world were in China. But now 7 of the top 10 cities in the world are from India, and that too in the NCR region and adjoining areas. Uh, Noida, Delhi, Greater Noida, Gurgaon, Ghaziabad, Kanpur. Situation is becoming from bad to worse. And previously there was air pollution in the outside environment. Now the scientists are talking about a new term, and the research is going on in this field: indoor air pollution. Now the inside portion of our buildings, our houses, the schools where small children study, in hospitals where the patients are being treated, these spaces are not saved from the pollution. There is a pollution inside the buildings also. So it is having a lot of health related and respiratory problems for us. And you must have seen in the last few years, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected the respiratory system of the human body. So air pollution played a very negative role in that. In providing or posing more problems when this air pollution combined with the virus, coronavirus that we are talking about. Then different problems due to the air pollution, increased carbon emissions, global warming, climate change, rise in the sea levels, the aquatic species becoming endangered, melting down of glaciers, the aquatic life in the rivers, the perennial rivers are being endangered of becoming extinct. So all round climate change, there is a extreme temperatures in summer and very cold climate in winters. Sometimes there is very scanty rainfall resulting in the drought in certain areas of the world. Sometimes very heavy rainfall or cloudburst situations leading to flash floods and lot of loss of life and property in certain areas. We have already seen these episodes in different parts of our country. The Kedarnath episode, the Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar episode, the floods that have taken place in Mumbai, the flash floods taking place in Kerala. So these things are visible everywhere. This year we have had a prolonged on extensive winter season, which has just passed. So all sorts of problems like soil erosion, where the top 4 inches or 6 inches of the fertile soil, which is full of nutrients, is washed away due to the surface runoff, due to the flash floods, and in this way the fertility of the soil reduces. Species becoming continuously being becoming endangered and in the risk of being extinct. Then aquifer depletion, the water table, whatever existing is continuously going down. And now there are certain areas, the Ministry of Water Resources has released the data last year showing that several parts of our country now are been declared in being in the dark zone. What is a dark zone? That there might be a possibility that the water table may go down to a level that it may not be possible in future to take out water by using any mechanical means of pump. Some parts of Haryana and adjoining districts of Western Uttar Pradesh, Shamli, Badaut, Muzaffarnagar, Meerut, and other districts in West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, and Telangana, they are being put into the dark zone. So all our surface water sources are highly polluted. The rivers are highly polluted. We were depending on the groundwater. Groundwater is becoming scarce because of this continuous depletion of the groundwater table. And in addition to it, whatever groundwater we have, there are certain emerging pollutants now that we are now been reported in our groundwater aquifers. I've just mentioned the pesticides and chemical fertilizers. That is not the only emerging pollutants or contaminants. Uh, we can discuss about the heavy metals. We can discuss about the pharmaceutical compounds. We can discuss about the radioactive substances. So all sorts of these compounds are now being reported in our groundwater resources. And the irony is that the common man is not even aware of this fact. We are happy installing the reverse osmosis RO plants in our houses, and there is a blind race between people that if somebody has installed at rupees 10,000 RO plant under the name of Aquaguard, I will use a plant of maybe used by Nasaka Aqua or maybe Kent, which is of 15,000 or 17,000 rupees. So the awareness needs to be created, and the awareness is to be brought about by the educated section of the society. That is why the need of this type of lectures, the information being imparted to you, because when we impart education to the teachers are the group of the society, they are the trainers of the the people. So when you go back to your colleges, your schools, and other places, you not only educate the children, but you also educate the society at large that we should be aware of these issues. A common reverse osmosis plant reduces hardness in water, or it reduces the total dissolved solids in water, but it cannot remove up to a certain limit only, but not completely the deadly, say, micropollutants like heavy metals or pesticides or radioactive or pharmaceutical compounds we are talking. Again, there is no way of say testing the water. People, general public is not even aware of it. Nobody tests the groundwater. We just take it by using a submersible pump, put it on the top of our building in a say tank, water tank, and then we use it thinking it to be pure. But we are not realizing that it is having certain micropollutants which are not only bad for our health, they are carcinogenic in nature, cancer causing substances. The prevalence of cancer and diabetes is increasing in India. Every third person is a diabetic. And it is being said that by the year 2050, India is going to be the cancer capital of the world. What is the meaning? That the maximum, the highest number of cancer patients will be in India. So, have you ever thought what is the reason for this? The main scientists and doctors have attributed two main reasons. One is the all round pollution. The air that we are breathing in is polluted. The water that we are drinking is having micropollutants. And the food that we are eating is being adulterated. That is another problem in our country, which is not there in the other developed countries. Any food item, the cereals, the pulses, even the milk is adulterated. You must have heard about the adulterated milk that is being sold on a large scale in the NCR area and other parts of the country, unhindered, no restriction, and people are forced to. Even in baby food, in milk powder that is for the babies, it is being adulterated. The life saving drugs are being adulterated. So, if you think that the laws are not there to control it or the law enforcing agencies are not there, you may be wrong, because all the laws are in its place, all the law enforcing agencies are there. But somehow, maybe due to corruption or other reasons, lack of awareness, and the people not being aware of it, the laws are not being implemented at the ground level, and these people, the people who are spreading these problems, causing pollution, they are playing havoc with our health, with our life. I may give another example here. We are sitting in the city of Aligarh. It's famous for its lock industry. We call it Tala Nagari. And to give polish to the lock and key, electroplating is done in electroplating industry. So we use different types of heavy metals for, say, polishing or electroplating the locks and keys, like nickel plating, chrome plating, and other metals. So what is being done in a big industry, a wastewater treatment plant is there for the purpose of recovery of heavy metals from the wastewater plating bath. But in Aligarh city, you can see, if you go to city area especially, you will find, I may name certain examples, name of the localities: Jaiganj, Upper Fort, Shahjamal, and other parts. Every single household is having a small lock industry. And they are using, I myself seen, being a part of the team with the district magistrate, visited and raided various industrial premises, where we have seen that they are either putting in a drain and moving one step further, putting down the wastewater laced with heavy metals in high concentration in the borings for shallow hand pumps. Small borings are done, and this wastewater is directly being pumped into the ground. So that is a criminal act, because when we do such a thing, any person is indulged in such an act, he or she contaminates the entire aquifer, and groundwater contamination takes place. So below the surface of the earth, these aquifers are interconnected. So if we are contaminating at one place, at a point source, there might be a possibility that the water in that aquifer may be in a maybe 1 or 2 square kilometer area. So the entire water in that aquifer will be contaminated. And there are the severe punishment in the laws. If the person is caught for the first time, rupees 5,000 fine, and the industry being given say warning. Second time, 10,000 fine, industry seal for maybe 3 months. Then the maximum punishment is 5 years rigorous imprisonment and a fine of the tune of rupees 5 lakhs. But the most unfortunate part is that there are very few first information reports, FIRs, uh, cognizance being taken by the law enforcing agencies for the environmental sector, that is the state pollution control boards or the central pollution control board, sometimes the National Green Tribunal and the courts themselves taking suo moto cognizance, and sometimes public interest litigation being filed by the individual NGOs or the watchdogs that are working for the cause of environment. But serious awareness have to be spread about this problem. We have to stop it if we want not to compromise with our natural ecosystem components. So here we have shown the examples. Sources of pollutions can be divided into point sources and non-point sources. For example, if air pollution is caused by a smoke stack or a chimney from a cottage industry like a brick kiln, so it is called an example of point source. Then pesticide blowing into the air from an agricultural field, it is an example of non-point source. Then the pollutants can be biodegradable. Biodegradable are those pollutants which can be biodegraded by the bacteria or breaking down over a period of time. And non-biodegradable are those which cannot be broken down by any type of bacteria. So we have to have treatment plants in the industries itself and sewage treatment plants for treating municipal wastewater in the cities before these are being discharged in any water body or on the land area. Similarly, proper air pollution control devices would have to be installed in the industries, starting from, say, gravitational settling chambers to baghouse filters to electrostatic precipitators. Now we have all the technology with us. We can use this technology to cut down air pollution. As far as the automobiles are concerned, there are several solutions. For example, you must have heard about the lead being used for increasing the octane number of petrol. So now the unleaded petrol is being used and it cut down the lead particulates in the air. And we have to use a certain device in the car or automobile that is called catalytic converter. Similarly, you must have heard about the LPG being used or the biodiesel being used in the cars in place of the normal petrol and diesel. So how do you prepare the biodiesel? We grow a seed called jatropha, or there are other seeds on a large scale, and crush the seeds to obtain the oil, mix it with ethanol, and the biodiesel is formed, which can be used in place of normal petrol and diesel to cut down carbon emissions. Similarly, we can use various renewable sources for energy that we were just talking about, like hydropower is one important source. What is hydropower? We can use different types of the water being stored in a reservoir when we construct a dam. And we have been doing it in India ever since the first multi-purpose hydroelectric plant or dam was constructed on the bank of river Satluj in Punjab. It was called Bhakra Nangal Dam. Then there are several dams being constructed in India. The last big dam is Tehri Dam, being constructed in the state of Uttarakhand. So the height of water being stored in the reservoir in the Tehri Dam is very high. Again, there are risks associated with these types of dams, which are having the high amount of water being stored. And in case of any earthquake or any natural disaster, or maybe an enemy striking our country, bombing it, there might be a possibility of the breakdown of dam. You can think of the disaster it will bring about. So now the government is focusing on constructing smaller dams, small run of the river projects. For example, if Tehri Dam is maybe producing 150 megawatts of electricity, we can make 100 small run of the river projects of 1 megawatt each. So each contributing 1 megawatt, the 100 projects will give us 100 megawatt. But the environmental dangers it will be posing will be much less. You must have heard about various environmental conservists and people who have worked for the cause of environment in our country, like Dr. Rajendra Singh, who's called the Waterman of India. He has worked relentlessly for recreating the natural water resources in the state of Rajasthan. Then Sundarlal Bahuguna and Medha Patekar, who have worked relentlessly for uh, stopping or deforestation and bringing about reforestation. So in this slide, you can see the point source of an air pollution, the smoke coming out from the chimneys of an industry which is responsible for air pollution. Then another example of 9-point source of water pollution, you can see this solid waste comprising of plastic bottles being dumped in the water body, which is not the right thing to do to dispose of the solid waste. Now, whatever unwanted effects of pollution we are discussing, certainly all types of pollution will be having a negative effect on the life of all the living beings, including animals as well as human beings. So you can see that air pollution and water pollution, suppose we are drinking infected water. So this infected water is responsible for causing different types of waterborne diseases in the human beings, like uh, cholera, like amoebic dysentery, like typhoid, and the air pollution is causing all types of diseases in the respiratory system of the human body, starting from the person getting cough or sneezing, then allergy in the inner lining of the lungs, uh, causing asthma or inflammation in the alveoli and bronchi called alveolitis, bronchitis, and even cardiovascular illness like blockage of the coronary arteries have been attributed to person breathing in an air which is highly air polluted, especially if it is having a large concentration of suspended particulate matter in it. So that is of certain concern, because the lipids, the fats that is in our blood, it combines with the particulate matter from the lungs, and it accelerates the rate of blockage of the coronary arteries. So the person is being affected by the heart attack or the myocardial infarction, MI, and there is the danger of other diseases as mentioned in the slide, like when person is affected by uh, continuously taking the pesticides, there can be problems like gastroenteritis and the risk of cancer, etc. So all sorts of pollution causing havoc with our health. Now, how we can control pollution? What are the solutions? We have to clean up the pollution that is taking place from the various sources. So cleaning up begins with, first of all, diluting the pollutants after we have produced them, or rather preventing them altogether. That is the best thing. So prevention is better than cure, as they say. Then over exploitation of the shared renewable resources has to be stopped, whether it is a private property or it is a common property or it is a national property. We consider many ecosystem components like water and air and soil to be the natural, say, resources, which is not the property of any individual, but this is the property of all the citizens of the world. And if we will not reduce pollution, what will be giving to our future generations? So it is our responsibility to, we owe it to our future generations that we have to reduce pollution and provide solutions to these problems. So as I was mentioning, that we have to reduce the ecological footprints. So how we can reduce the ecological footprint? The amount of biologically productive land and water needed to provide the people in a region with indefinite supply of renewable sources and to absorb and recycle wastes and pollution is defined as the ecological footprint or the carbon footprint of any activity. For example, I am talking to you over a laptop, so you must be hearing on me on another laptop or on a mobile phone. So all the materials that have been used in manufacturing of these devices, including plastics, metals, semiconductors, and glass, to produce these materials in the industry, we have used a large quantity of electricity or energy. And to produce that energy or electricity, large carbon emissions must have been released in the air pollution must have been caused. So every activity that we are doing is having a carbon or ecological footprint. So more is our footprint, more unsustainable we are. The more we reduce our carbon footprint or ecological footprint, more sustainable we become. So what can we do to bring about this reduction of ecological footprint? As we are talking about, we have to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions, the carbon emissions, which can be done by reduction in the burning of fossil fuels. We can use renewable sources of energy like hydropower, like wind energy, like solar energy. But one thing should be kept in mind: the energy we are producing from renewable sources, the rate of production must be comparable to what we are doing by conventional method. For example, if we are producing electricity by solar power or wind power, and the cost of energy production is say 15 rupees per unit of electricity, and by conventional method we are producing it at 6 or 7 or 8 rupees of in electricity per unit. So in a developing country, nobody is going to buy that renewable energy unless and until we do research in it. We produce good quality, cost effective windmills and photovoltaic cells to produce power or electricity comparable to the electricity we are producing by the conventional method. The problem is not going to be so. Now all of our scientific community, the CSIR labs, the scientists in our universities, they are working day and night to bring about this reduction in cost of the production of renewable sources of energy. And once having been done, we'll certainly going to be contribute in a big way in reduction of our ecological footprint. Similarly, in all other areas like protection of the grazing land, cropland, stop the cutting down of forests, reduction in the built up land, or more reforestation to account for it, and reduction in the pollution in water bodies so that the aquatic life like fishes can thrive easily. So these are all the activities that we can do to achieve this sustainability. Here in this slide, we have tried to compare that what are the patterns of natural resource consumption for the people living in rural areas, the villages. They have very little requirement. They pollute less as compared to the people living in the big cities. They are using more energy, they are using gadgets, and they are polluting much more and consuming much more resources as compared to the people living in the villages. In the villages, people are said to be self sufficient, self reliant. Whatever is required for the living, they produce all those items there. But people in the cities, they use different electronic gadgets like televisions, like air conditioners in the month of summer, heaters in the winter months, and washing machines and geysers and whatnot. They are also using automobiles in which they use fossil fuels like petrol and diesel. So all of these are having their ecological footprints, which is causing problem for the environment. Then this slide, a comparison in terms of bar graph for natural capital use and degradation. So it is said that if we compare the total ecological footprint for countries, developed countries like United States and in Europe, as compared to China, India, and Japan, you'll find now China is almost comparable to the European Union because China is no more a developing country. It has certainly converted itself from a developing nation to a developed nation in the last few decades. And in some of the areas of science and technology, in medicine, infrastructure development, in the fields of artificial intelligence, in robotics. China has even surpassed various countries of European Union and even United States and Japan. So if we compare specifically with countries like India, you'll find that our ecological footprint is much less as compared to these developed countries. So here you can see the global human footprint map, where we have tried to show that in developed countries we are polluting more, in developed countries we are using the resources more, but the affluence of the wealth is also more. So it is sort of a misnomer that you have to see actually on the ground what is the footprint. So IPAT is an international model that defines the environmental impact of the anthropogenic or human activities, various activities that they are undertaking in their areas. So it is called IPAT model. Here I stands for the environmental impact the human activities is having, P for population, A for the affluence, and T for the technology. So environmental impact is the product of population, affluence, and technology. So with the help of this model, we can understand that in the less developed countries, population is more, consumption per person or the affluence is less, and technological impact is also less. That is why the impact of the on the environment is also less. On the other hand, for more developed countries, they are consuming more, they are using more technology, therefore the environmental impact is more, even there their population is low. Even when their population is low, still they are polluting more. Why? Because their affluence and technology is much advanced as compared to developing country like us. So these are some of the statistics related to the world population. Population in India, as per the latest United Nations estimates, now we have surpassed China. Here you can see the population growth rate in the different decades. Uh, so you can see that this declining graph does not mean that the population is reducing, but it means the rate at which it was increasing is getting low. So that is also a positive sign since the year 1985. The trend at which the population increase is taking place has lowered, but still the growth rate is on the positive side. Again, some of the statistics for India. Now, when we compare these statistics with the case study in countries like China, as I've just mentioned, China has developed itself on a large level from a developing to a developed nation. So there are now projections about China being the leading consumer of food items, food grains, leading consumer of the natural resources like coal, steel, and cement, large scale infrastructure development taking place. Previously, the two-thirds of most polluted cities were in China, but now this is going down. They are working day and night for reducing the pollution level. And the projection for the next decade and the next few years, decades to come are very promising. On the other hand, if we compare it to a country in a Southeast Asian country like Bangladesh, uh, all the countries, including India, are not showing promising trends as far as the pollution control is concerned. But Bangladesh is one such country where we are seeing high GDP growth, as well as they are working hard in reducing their pollution. So you can see that Bangladesh is certainly working hard, and it is uh, on the way of China to achieve the sustainable development, the real sustainable development that we are talking about. But much needs to be done in India. In the scientific terminology, we use this term, the ecological tipping point. It is very important that there is an irreversible shift in the behavior of the natural system, and this is certainly because of the environmental degradation that takes place due to the time delays between our actions now and the deleterious effects that takes place later on. So we have to change our lifestyle. For example, in a country like United States, if in a household of four people, every person is having his own car, and they are consuming more fossil fuel like petrol and diesel and contributing to more air pollution. Then if we use more air conditioners in our house and we are asked to reduce one or two, it is difficult for us to accept it, because uh, this amounts to change in our lifestyle. So if somebody asks us to change our lifestyle, we reluctantly become agree to it. It is difficult to achieve, but not impossible. So different countries are working for reducing the air pollution, reducing the water pollution, working for reduction in the species extinction by making the various, say, parks and various wildlife sanctuaries for the different species of animal that are in the endangered list. So, with this, I come to the end of this lecture. I want to stop now because I want the lecture to be an interactive one. Now, I request you to please ask your questions. Whatever I had told you today in this topic of sustainable development, you are welcome to ask questions. Please introduce yourself first, and thus please ask question if you want. Anybody? Are you getting my voice? Muhammad Ilyas and Alok Pandey have raised their hands. Yes, Muhammad Ilyas and Alok Pandey. If you want, you can ask a question. So I want to get your feedback also. Uh, have I able to increase the awareness?
Hello,
Yes.
hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello,
Please.
sir. I'm from West Bengal. I
Okay.
want to know one thing that is it possible for India to maintain the sustainable development with this with such a huge number of population? Is it possible, sir?
Yes. Very good question
So
asked by.
I want your opinion because
Yes. Yes.
you are a civil you are an engineer also. You know the how the
Yes. Yes.
development is going on in
Yes.
India and what rate is going on. So is it possible because the people is the factor, number of population is the main factor to stop the sustainable development. It is not
Hmm.
possible. Is it possible at all, sir?
Mr. Sushanta Nath has asked a very good question, that with our ever increasing population, with India becoming the most populous country in the world, is it possible to bring about sustainable development that we are talking about? So I've already said to you that it is a difficult thing to achieve, not very easy, but it is not impossible. We have seen the case study of China. They were having very high population rate. Their population was the most highest population in the world. Yet they were able to not only achieve their industrial development, the infrastructure development, development in the fields of science and technology. They were also able to bring the rate of their population growth. They were able to reduce it, and they have been able to convert their nation from developing to developed state. So,
Sir, actually, sir, what happened? Uh, it is my opinion that China is a one-party rule is going on in China, but India is a democratic country. So there are different parties, different opinions, different castes, different religion are
mm,
in India. So how it is possible in such a huge democracy? There are 500 parties in India, but China is one-party politics at China.
actually, you are
So they
right.
are dictating the rule.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, that is going on.
yeah. You
But
are rightly
here,
mentioned.
if you want to do something, then you have to take the opinion of different parties, different people, and there are also human rights. Many other things are there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, is it possible, sir?
You have very correctly mentioned, considering the diversified views of the different people, different religions, different castes and creed and gender. India being a democratic country, it is not easy to bring about, if we say that we want to achieve population reduction overnight, even government cannot do it. So it is the duty of the entire citizens of the country, if they want to bring about a sustainable development, to bring about, say change in their lifestyle, to do something for conserving the, actually it is something that is affecting not only us, but it is a global problem. So we are duty bound to the responsibility of the citizens also. They work together. Certainly, we can achieve some positive aspects. Yes, Mr. Abdul.
Exactly, sir. Exactly. Okay,
ठीक
sir.
है
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for patient hearing.
हिंदी व्याकरण करबी पढ़ा की
Thank you very
बोर
much.
लगने दिया
I'm just leaving the call. Thank you all for joining and have a patient hearing.
Thank
थैंक यू सर
thank you, sir.
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 Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for your interesting lecture.
थैंक यू जल्दी जल्दी नजरुल इस्लाम नजरुल इस्लाम ये मतलब जो इनसे
Oh, sir, let on here. Okay. I could also